Now let's take a look at Week 3 NFL picks information. I'm Joe Duffy of OffshoreInsiders.com. We are 2-0 with Wise Guy Plays this week in all sports. Wise Guy Play among 6 NFL winners for Sunday. All of them start traditional time. Doesn't include the London game, although the London game, if you're calling early enough, we've got Stevie Vincent, the Master Lock Line, with the side and total biggest plays in the industry on the London game at 9 a.m. Eastern Time at OffshoreInsiders.com. Now let's take a look at some information. First, we'll take a look at Baltimore and Jacksonville. This game did open up, moved over a key number. Baltimore opened at 2.5, now 3.5. Ravens are 2-0 against the spread by 14 points per game, second best in the league among teams that played 2 games. Ravens, though, are very thin at linebacker, and they're down to just 3 healthy inside linebackers. Buccaneers and the Vikings. Sam Bradford is out for Minnesota. Case Keenum started twice against Tampa in 2015, won both with 4 touchdowns and an interception. Now, Dalvin Cook for Minnesota, he's kind of a feast or famine. He's been hit for a loss in 9 out of 34 carries, but yet he averages 5.6 yards per carry, which is kind of Barry Sanders-like. But if you're a longtime client of mine, you know that we made a lot of money betting against Barry Sanders because he was very overrated. Feast or famine running backs aren't the way that you win or cover games. Winston, though, with Mike Evans, O.J. Howard, Deshaun Jackson, like we said, he's got more weapons than... He's got plenty of weapons. I shouldn't say more than he's ever had. He's only been in the league, 3 years. But, Quez Rogers averages 3.5 yards per carry as Doug Martin's replacement. Jameis Winston's played well on the road, 85 or higher in 5 of the last 6 road games. Tampa held to just 20 yards rushing. Held Chicago to just 20 yards rushing. But teams that allowed 28 or fewer rushing yards last game are 63 and 49 against the spread. That would favor Tampa. The Falcons and the Lions. Detroit is 2-0 against the spread with a league best 15.8 margin of cover. Now, as we explained to you at OffshoreInsiders.com, margin of cover, ATS margin, sweat barometer, whatever. It's how much a team does or does not cover the point spread by, or in the case of over-unders, of course, how much they go over or under the total. Atlanta's gone over 17 and 4 their last 21. Undefeated home underdogs are very small favorites, though, are 25 and 9 against the spread. That is when the odds makers imply that they are the inferior team despite the record. And such teams are 84.6% if the road team has a loss. Also, an angle based on early season overreaction the last year is 45 and 20 and says to fade Atlanta. So your free pick, this is not one of our premium picks, but your free pick is to go with Detroit plus the 3. Free NFL pick, Detroit plus the 3. Visit OffshoreInsiders.com for the most thoroughly vetted sportsbooks, where to place a bet. Always shop around for the best line. We've got all the thoroughly vetted best sportsbooks at OffshoreInsiders.com. Giants and the Eagles. The Giants are one of 3 teams in the NFL with a double-digit negative against the spread margin at 0-2 for plus 13.5. Underdogs with a minus 13 or worse against the spread margin, and off of back-to-back games in which they failed to cover by double digits. 32 and 16 against the spread. That would favor the Giants. Remember, the NFL tends to be a regression to the mean sport, and that would definitely reflect that. Philadelphia's going over 14-0 off of a loss in which they had more third downs than punts. Eagles are 0-13, though, at home versus a divisional foe off of a loss in which they turned the ball over more than 2 times. So the first one, again, was to say the game over, and the second one would, of course, say to go against Philadelphia. Texans and the Patriots at OffshoreInsiders.com. The New England, the biggest over team in the NFL, going over both games by 11.2 points per game. New England vulnerable to the big play. They've already allowed 12 plays of 20 or more yards with 4 of more than 40 yards. Chiefs and the Chargers. The Kansas City Chiefs, the second biggest over team in the NFL. Of course, Kansas City played at New England in Week 1, so it's no surprise they are at 1-2. But again, these stats will become even more and more prominent as the year goes on, both in college and the NFL. Of course, in college, especially already some teams, when we preview next week, they'll have 4 games under their belt. Anyway, Kansas City, the Chargers, starting safety Jason Verrett is out for the year. He a key starting player, albeit he's been injured the past couple years. KC, a perfect 11-0 against the spread on the road if the line is within 3 points of Pick'em, and they're off of a home in which they had fewer total yards. Seahawks and the Titans. Seattle's going under both games by 22.2 points per game. And the Broncos and the Bills. Buffalo under both by an average of 20 points per game. Denver, though, is going over 16-0 versus non-divisional favorites to a team that had less than 26 minutes and 15 seconds time of possession last game. OffshoreInsiders.com tells you the Browns and the Colts. Cleveland is 1-20 straight up the last 21, and yet they're road favorites. First time since 1988 a team has dropped 20 out of 21, obviously spread over multiple seasons, and are road favorites. Indianapolis, their new quarterback Jacoby Brissett is still learning the offense. Saints and the Panthers, teams that allow at least 28 fewer points per game than their opponent, are 25-12 against the spread, including 16-5 when laying at least 2.5. That would say go with the Panthers. Again, at least statistically, based on points per game, huge chasm between these two teams. Carolina much better defensively, and in such situation, teams like that do very well. The Steelers and the Bears team off a game in which they got 22 or less yards rushing, 69-40 as long as they're not getting more than 7.5. That would benefit the Bears. 16-8 when such teams are home underdogs. The heat is on Mike Glennon for the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky, the star rookie. Well, what they hope is a star rookie. A lot of people are already clamoring for him. Second-year running back Jordan Howard for Chicago, just 59 yards rushing so far on 22 carries. Wide receiver Marcus Wheaton probably going to make his debut. He's a speedy receiver, opens it up possibly for Howard. Steelers sensational rookie TJ Watt should play after leaving the Vikings game with an injury. Bears guard Kyle Long, pretty good chance he's going to return. Undefeated versus winless teams are 55-33 against the spread in week 3 or later, as long as the undefeated team is not an underdog of more than a field goal. So again, essentially when the odds makers are saying that those records are fraudulent, use the odds makers' knowledge against them. But this, look, most of our NFL angles are a regression of the mean, but that is a momentum one indeed. And in such circumstances, such teams are actually 73-18 straight up. The Bengals and the Packers. The Bengals 9 points scored through 2 games. They won the last 3 straight up in the series. Cincinnati, first team since 1993 to open up with 2 home games and not score a touchdown. Of course, they fired their offensive coordinator, Ken Zampese, and elevated quarterback coach Bill Lazor. And I don't think he's going to get conservative here, folks. There's going to be a certain element of surprise. Andy Dalton, far and away the worst passer in the league, 47.2 quarterback rating. And the Packs' new Nitro defense, they started out great against Seattle, then were terrible last week against Atlanta. For Cincinnati, tight end Tyler Eifert is out. Good player, 127 career receptions. Who are the top consensus plays? The biggest consensus plays, public consensus plays. Again, this is based on number of bets, not money bet, because if you're a contrarian bettor, you love those $10 and $20 bets. So top consensus based on percentage of bets, Denver, Pittsburgh, and Oakland. Nothing super overwhelming. Denver, Pittsburgh, and Oakland. All the best sports books, all the best handicappers are one place, offshoreinsiders.com.